hi. Normally the best of the year comes before this, but there's shit that hasn't come to Springfield yet.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's stuff that we don't have to wait to come to Springfield before we make this list, but this was kind of hard for both of us for completely different reasons.
Very different reasons, yes.
I saw a lot of bad movies this year. A lot, and so much that honestly you'll be shocked some of the stuff that didn't make it on this list. There was probably about 7 that were for sure, like, yes, totally. And then there was a separate category of about 8, which would easily be contenders for, like, any list. And they would be movies that if they are on someone's list, I totally get it. And so it got to where, okay, I picked 8 and I picked 9. And then when it got to the last one, I was looking at a list of, like, 6 movies that I still had on there. And man, I must have stared at it for such a long time, being like, which one do I pick? Which one do I fucking pick? And you kind of had the opposite problem.
I had the opposite problem, whereas, like, this past year, it didn't, till, like, June, I didn't do a lot of midnight reviews because I was working out of town. Mm-hmm. And then from June on, I just kind of fucking lucked out.
Honestly, yeah.
I kept getting movies that were either really good or, like, it was what it was movies.
Yeah.
So, like, Brad sent me a list of, like, here's the ones you gave a bad review to this year, and it was only 8 fucking movies.
Yeah, and then I also put on there, like, oh, and whatever else you saw on your own. Because I know you watch some stuff on Netflix, too, and things like that.
Well, Netflix and Yar, I Am a Pirate.
Also, The Wildlife is on there.
Yeah. So it's, you know, so some stuff I saw on my own, and then I just kind of reached in and I was like, all right, on second thought, like, some of these movies maybe were worse than I thought.
Mm. That does happen, man.
And, like, had to rethink some things, and it's like, all right. So it's kind of a mishmash, but, like, honestly, half my list, they're movies that, yeah, I don't enjoy them, but, like, there's some of them I honestly wouldn't blame someone for liking.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
No. It absolutely does. I mean, there would be a couple of movies on my best list where I would be like, yeah, I could see why somebody wouldn't like this, you know. So to talk about, normally I don't even do like a honorable mention type thing, but to get into it a little bit, because I know you'll be surprised about some of the stuff that doesn't make it on here. That's because I saw a lot of bad fucking movies in 2016. So, before I get to number 10, look, it doesn't matter who starts with what. We know what number 1's gonna be. So, or maybe, you don't know.
Switch it up.
Yeah, I'll lie.
Worst movie of the year. Captain America, Civil War.
You know, saw it again, didn't hold up.
No, terrible.
Not a
Fucking
fan.
awful.
I'm kidding, by the way.
I'm not!
So, ones that didn't, and I'll tell you why they didn't. Some of them for the same reasons. So, Norm of the North is not on my list. Neither is Gods of Egypt. Neither is 9 Lives. Because while 9 Lives, Norm of the North, to an extent, Gods of Egypt, look like something that either A, shouldn't be put in the theaters at any point, or B, looks like something that would have been theatrical 20 fucking years ago, and not even a bad, or not even a good version of that. Norm of the North, Gods of Egypt, and 9 Lives I at least had fun watching as a bad movie. As incompetent as they were, they were unintentionally hilarious. So there is that. The Wildlife isn't on my list. Because, I don't know, maybe look, the animation is even shittier than the animation in Norm of the North, but it's an import, and I don't know if the original version of it is any better than the dubbed version we got. I don't know. I doubt it, but I don't know. But that was hard to sit through. The Other Side of the Door was really hard to sit through, but at the least looked like a theatrical movie. It just a bad one. So those didn't make it on my list for that reason when compared to number 10. What didn't make yours?
Honestly, compared to yours, they're fucking laughable. There was, like, I had to stretch to, like, come up with a list, and I came up with 15 movies, and I was like, for sure didn't really like these movies.
Yeah.
So the ones that didn't make my top 10 for this year, Why Him?
It didn't make mine either.
Which, it's not good, but it had moments.
Yeah.
I don't want to rewatch it.
No.
But Franco and Cranston were great.
I mean, Franco and Cranston were part of what didn't make me mad at that movie.
Yeah.
The movie didn't make my list either. I did not recommend that movie, but I probably wasn't as mad at it as I would have been if it was just me and you, because Brad Street
was having so much fun.
He was having a good time with the movie, and I could tell during the movie that he was, so that was kind of infectious in a way. It didn't make me like the movie, but it made me not mad at it.
And I don't think Brad Street liked the movie either.
He had fun.
But Brad Street's always been one of those dudes that he just loves movies.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
So, good or bad, like, the dude just loves to see a movie. Mm-hmm. What else didn't make my list? The Magnificent Seven.
Oh, you did dislike that more than I did. I actually kind of liked that.
I disliked it, but, you know, it's one of those movies that's like, I get what they were trying to do, it just wasn't my thing.
Right.
Bridget Jones's Baby didn't make my list.
That actually surprises me. That's not on your list.
You know, I'll be honest. I did not like that movie.
Uh-huh.
But it's not the worst piece of shit. And it's just, I think that boils down to, like, this is not for me.
Sure, yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one that didn't make my list, The Jungle Book.
Yeah, that's not on my... Well, granted, I didn't care for that, but I think I at least called it a rental.
I didn't care for it either, but at the same time, it was just kind of like, I get what you're doing. You know?
Yeah, it was one that critics and honestly audiences too liked way more than I did, but I didn't hate the film by any means. I thought it was a better movie. I don't know. I don't know what I would rather watch, that or Legend of Tarzan. I didn't like Legend of Tarzan either, but it might have been a little more entertaining just for Samuel Jackson alone.
That movie made... there's this guy in Springfield who's a movie reviewer. God bless him. Every year he puts out his best 10 movies of the year list. Legend of Tarzan was in his top 10.
Was it really?
Yeah.
That's not a very good movie.
Well, and he's one of those guys that, God bless him, he tries, but
sure,
he doesn't have good taste.
As all local critics do.
Yeah.
So you want to go first at number 10?
Yeah, sure, because your list is going to be way more interesting than mine. Number 10 for me, Central Intelligence.
Oh, Central Intelligence. Did we... I honestly can't remember what we thought of that.
It was one of those ones I had to think of and, like, form an opinion past the time of seeing it. Because I remember when watching it, I was like, that's a dumb comedy.
Uh-huh.
But it's not a good dumb comedy, and the only thing about it that was even remotely enjoyable was The Rock playing a big dumb guy.
Yeah.
Like, the rest of it is entirely forgettable, and honestly, it's just full of cliches and not very good.
It's a wildly predictable film, even for that kind of movie.
Like I said, my list is going to be so much less interesting.
It's going to be bare. I honestly couldn't... I remembered thinking that was passable, I guess. I mean, at least if you were to compare it to some of the other Kevin Hart movies. I mean, compared to Think Like a Man 2, it was fucking Lethal Weapon.
It was better than fucking Get Hard.
Yeah, it was better than that.
But it still, you know, I didn't see that many movies this year.
Right,
I'm fucking stretching.
You still saw some shitty ones,
like,
though.
You know, I'm very, very firm with my top 5.
Right.
So...
okay, so my number 10, now I mentioned those ones that didn't make my list, at least Norm of the North and stuff like that was it's funny to make fun of. We reference Norm of the North a lot on the show because it's a terrible fucking movie, and it's a fun one to reference in terms of terrible movies that you see this year. But man, this one at number 10, not only like Norm of the North and like 9 Lives, not only does it look like something that this should not be a fucking mainstream release seen on the theater, but I at least had fun with some of those other ones, and I didn't with this one. Number 10 on mine is The Perfect Match.
I don't remember
Dude, okay, that was the last movie that I saw in Detroit, so it was like a final fuck you after I left. And so it was terrible. Like, that was... Okay, here's what it is. It would be like if the Asylum decided for whatever reason to make their own version of Boomerang with Eddie Murphy. It's the same fucking plot. Both movies still have Robin Givens in them. Robin Givens is on like 2 of the movies on this list. What the fuck? So, it's about this fucking womanizing guy who, unlike Eddie Murphy, is not charming or likable in the least. Like, you have no idea why this guy fucking has friends. And he just sleeps around, and then he meets the girl that he falls in love with, and then it doesn't work out, and he becomes so bad in it that it's the point of, like, irredeemable. Like, there's a point in the movie where it's like no one would forgive this guy, no one would continue to be friends with him, there's really no lessons that are learned here, everyone's kind of a scumbag. I am going to remember movies like Norm of the North and Nine Lives way more than I remember something like The Perfect Match. But Perfect Match was a million times harder to sit through.
I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... No, I understand that. Like, I see movies all the time where I'm like, that's fucking awful.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get to the end of the year list and you send me the list and there's one. I was like, what fucking movie was that? And then I had to look it up and I was like, oh God, that movie.
Dude, yeah.
The ones you push out.
Right, and it's pushed out because I saw it in March and I've seen a lot of bad movies since then. If I had seen this movie a couple of weeks ago, it would still be on my list. I would just kind of maybe remember a few more things about it. It was awful. I also saw Ted Cloverfield Lane that night, so at least I got one good movie in that night. Anyway, that's my number 10. What do you got as
number 9? The Lobster.
Yeah, that was not enjoyable to sit through.
And it's one of those things, no, I didn't enjoy sitting through it. And I spent the whole movie sitting there going, I get it. I know what you're trying to say. Mm-hmm. I know what you're trying to do. I understand completely why every fucking critic in the world seems to love that movie.
Uh-huh.
I understand why every half-pretentious intellectual I know likes that movie.
Same.
And in all honesty, maybe if it weren't... And I know it was the point, but it was so fucking dry.
Yeah.
You know? Like, if... Just maybe a bouncier soundtrack. Mm-hmm. I don't fucking know. I don't know. Because I can't say it was a terrible, god-awful film.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those movies that it was kind of like... If I had watched it when I was 17...
Mm-hmm.
And was looking forward to going to art school... And it was, you know... The late 90s, early 2000s when indie movies were king...
Yeah.
I might have fucking enjoyed it. But quite frankly... I'm 33 years old. I don't give a shit anymore. I was not entertained.
Uh-huh.
That's why it's number 9.
No, I get it. I get it. It's one of those movies that... It's one of those movies where a glowing review for it and a negative review for it will list the same reasons why they either liked it or hated it. I was with you on... I mean, it's not on my list, but like I wasn't a fan of that movie either. I get why people are. It was... What's praised about that movie is... I'm totally in agreement with you. What's praised about that movie is really why I can't get into it. And if you do like it, hey, right on. I get it. You know, you can have it. It wasn't one that I enjoyed.
It seems to me like it's the kind of story that I would have enjoyed the novelization of that movie.
Dude, right?
I would have enjoyed the hell out of the novelization of that movie. But I don't ever need to see that movie again. If someone makes a novelization, or if there's a graphic novel or something in that movie, I'll probably really fucking like it.
Yeah.
But as a movie, no, that's just a fucking hard 2 hours.
And just a waste of so many good, charismatic actors that they can be monotone through the whole thing. I get why they are, but...
But you don't need great actors to be monotone.
No, hire a bunch of wooden actors.
Yeah.
Alright, so my number 9... This is another one you didn't see. I saw this with Allison and Phelan. You would have had a time with this. My number 9 is Max Steel. Dude, did you ever see this fucking show?
I remember the show.
You did? Because I never saw... I barely remember it, but it's only kind of a blip, man.
Well, the only reason I really remember the show was because what that was on, like, we were older when that was.
We were, yeah.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was on in the era where I was working in restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd get off work at, midnight to 2 in the morning. And there were nights where it's just like, fuck it, I'm awake till 9 a.m. I'll watch cartoons.
Yeah, sure. Dude. This movie it's one of those movies that seems like it's produced by somebody who was a big fan of the show and is now in a position of power to make some shit like this. But this is it has such an unfortunate low budget that a lot of its action sequences are kind of deep in the woods. The final fight is in this like abandoned warehouse, only for budget reasons. Like, it's one of those, like, you can kind of tell when a movie's gonna be like that because it'll be set like around New Orleans, and I think this one was too. And his superpowers are that, like, sperm shoots out of his fingers. Like, these little, like, semen, like, kind of come out of his fingers. He's got this annoying robot sidekick with just this grating-ass voice that, like, I can usually be won over by cute robots, even in a bad movie, but this is one of the first ones I wanted to punch. And, dude, it tries so hard ripping off Iron Man in this that the fight scenes, it's basically Iron Man versus Ironmonger at the end of it, only if the villain was Andy Garcia, and it still does, like, first of all, obvious stunt doubling on both of their parts with Andy Garcia and this 30-year-old high school student. But fucking it still does, like, the Iron Man vision where you see, like, just his face and the shit going around him, and you know which one is good and which one is bad because the good one's blue and the other one's red. Like, this movie was it was if you cross Jem and the Holograms with Josh Trank's Fantastic Four. It's awful.
Oh.
That's my number. What was that? 9? Alright. Number 8.
Oh, speaking of superheroes, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice.
Yeah.
It wasn't good. Like, I'll give it credit. Better than the Man of Steel.
Yes, it is.
But still, so full of so many fucking problems.
Mm-hmm.
And with such a fundamental lack of understanding of the characters.
Right.
That's really what it boils down to me. It's everyone's like, yeah, there's comic books where this and this and this happens, and it's like, yes, there is. But DC Comics has this rich history of doing alternate universe stories where things happen. That's still not the core of the characters, you know? That's an interesting take on a character, but it's not the character.
Right.
And yeah, fuck Zack Snyder. Like, honestly, like, and quite frankly, I'm at the point now where fuck you if you like it, because you're wrong. You're simply wrong.
It's not on my list. I wasn't a fan of the movie either. Brian and I also gave it a negative review. It's a movie that's just so random. You know, aside from characters not being very good in it, it's just kind of and I haven't seen the extended cut, but like, it's just kind of a series of a bunch of sequences that just sort of happen. They don't flow together very well. It's not an easy movie to follow because of that.
Well, and then everybody's like, well, Wonder Woman's the highlight. Well, yeah, she just shows up. She doesn't fucking say anything.
Affleck was the highlight.
He was.
Ben Affleck is great in that movie. Like, honestly, if you see that movie just to see Ben Affleck play Batman, I totally understand that. And he's that good in this movie.
The unnecessary sequel baiting. We know there's going to be a fucking sequel.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to force in 5 more fucking characters.
You know what the thing about the movie is? It really is just the disappointment factor of it. Because here's a movie that should have been easy. Here's a movie that should have been... This should have been so good. Yeah. This shouldn't have been a polarizing film.
No, it shouldn't have been. And it just... There's just a... I hate to say it, I'm a comic book fan, and there's a level of fucking disrespect in those movies. It's Zack Snyder. I don't give a shit if you don't like Jimmy Olsen. He's an iconic character. Don't shoot him in the head 30 seconds into your shitty movie.
Or tell you after the movie comes out that that's supposed to be Jimmy Olsen.
It's in the credits.
Right.
He
has another scene in the extended cut, I think.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah. Oh, no, I agree. I totally agree with that. It just... I'm still looking forward to more Affleck as Batman.
And here's the thing. Because I'm a comic book guy, I will go to every single DC Universe movie. Everything Zack Snyder does, I'll go fucking see it with hope.
No,
every time with fucking hope.
You see, that's the thing. Like, I and I know you do too, want these movies to be good. No one wants a bad Batman v Superman movie.
Well, it's like that Man of Steel. I loved the trailers.
Yeah.
And the first 10 minutes of that movie, all that shit on Krypton, I was he had me roped in. I was prepared to fucking love the rest of the movie.
And Michael Shannon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It opened so strong and then it went to shit so quickly.
It kind of did, honestly. Yeah. And at least Man of Steel had Michael Shannon instead of being stuck with whatever the fuck Eisenberg was doing in Batman v Superman. And you know what? This isn't even... Look, we were honestly two of the only people that were pretty fucking lenient towards Suicide Squad.
And that's the thing. It's like... Suicide Squad... It's not a good movie, but at least it was fucking fun.
At least it had personality. At least it had charisma. At least there was something for me to enjoy in that. And
I'll admit, maybe I graded that on a fucking scale because I was so let down by the other one.
Probably me too, honestly. Okay, so number 8 on mine, I guarantee you this would have been on yours if you saw it, is Boo! A Madea Halloween.
It wasn't my year for Madea. It was someone else's Tyler Perry year.
That was the week Sophie was born.
That's right!
I texted you and was like, I know what the answer is going to be. So Madea Halloween... It was almost sort of one of those, like, courtesy asks. You know how whenever, like, a sequel is made and they're, like, obligated to ask a person... Like when Frank Sinatra was asked about Die Hard because of The Detective. It was sort of that. It was, like, a courtesy ask. and you're like, I'm busy this week. I'm like, I know. So it was me and Brian at this movie. Dude, okay, you've seen more Tyler Perry movies than I have. I've seen, like, 3 or 4 maybe or something like that. This was, of the ones I've seen, this was the worst. Like,
I can believe it.
Dude, at least, as bad as Madea Christmas was, at least stuff happened in that.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, no, it's... Tyler Perry, I'll give the man credit for finding his audience and exploiting the fuck out of them. But he's a terrible filmmaker.
And God bless that audience for having a good time that I certainly wasn't fucking having in that. At least there were more than a few sets in Madea Christmas. At least it felt more like a movie. This movie was only made because they really liked the joke in Top 5 where Chris Rock's movie was being beaten by Medea's haunted house. Yeah. And that fake movie in Top 5, which I don't even think it showed a clip of, it was just like a poster or something. Yeah. That fake movie would be 1,000,000 times better than this piece of shit. It was like, make this because that's a funny joke in Top 5. And then they did nothing with it. Like the trailer was Medea's getting chased by zombies and shit. This movie is probably the second most misleading thing that was released in theaters because there's a 20-minute sequence that's just 6 characters standing in a room seemingly ad-libbing about fucking nothing. The movie's mostly about parenting, and then the part with the zombies is just some frat boys that are played by YouTube celebrities chasing Madea just to get revenge on her for whatever reason, and it turns out that's also what the haunting was in the house. So these frat boys somehow have developed the technology to make foggy mirrors have invisible writing on them.
I just want to throw this out there. Speaking as a sidekick-like character to a YouTube celebrity, Tyler Perry asked me to be in one of his movies, as much as I hate his movies, we'd all be there in a heartbeat.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm basically doing what we do on here. We shoot the shit about movies, so I'm going to say whether I like something, I'm going to say whether I dislike something. I have no false pretense that I'm a fucking professional movie critic at all. We are two people who just shoot the shit about movies. The whole group of us are. So I will... Yeah, I've probably been in movies that are worse than Boo and Medea Halloween. I get that, but I'm still saying, like, yeah, this is my opinion on this movie. If I got asked to be in Boo and Medea Halloween too, yeah, fuck yeah, sure. I don't know why you're asking me. I'll do it. We're all better actors than the people that they got in Medea Halloween.
I'm sure, but,
I would do it. I would totally do it. I'd be in Transformers 5 if they asked me.
Well, now that Wahlberg's a star.
Oh, yeah, they're better now.
Yeah.
In a way.
Kind of.
Okay. 7.
7, sticking with Batman. Batman the Killing Joke. The worst Batman movie of the year.
You know what? Yeah.
And God bless him for trying, but the execution just wasn't fucking there.
Uh-huh.
Like, if you're gonna do, like, one of the most hardcore Batman stories, even animated, fucking just do it. Don't half-ass it, don't clean it up, and don't add in some weird pseudo-sexual relationship between Batman and Batgirl.
And not that hasn't been done or implied before. Just because it has doesn't mean it'll work in anything that you fucking throw it
Exactly.
in. I hadn't read the comic before I saw that movie, and even me sitting there watching it, I was like, this whole experience is weird. One, the animation's not that great. It's really choppy, and
the style of animation didn't suit the material is what it was.
Yeah, not really. There was something off about it. Sort of like when something just gets projected and the frame rate isn't quite there. But and it was two movies that didn't fit well together. Like, I understand you need to make something you need to flesh something out more because it's an adaptation. This was weird. It was like you tacked on this prologue and then the adaptation starts. It's a weird way to do something like that, and it makes it, even when you're not familiar with the material, it makes it jarring.
Yeah.
And you're right, Batman v Superman was a slightly better movie.
Slightly better.
One notch better.
By a fucking cunt hair, I tell you.
Speaking of the term cunt hair,
I love the segues we're having tonight.
Yeah. Speaking of the term cunt hair, my next choice is a Kevin Smith film, and I'm sure he's used that phrase in one of his fucking Yoga Hosers. Man, this was, dude, and I
love Kevin Smith.
Yeah, we spent our teen years getting excited.
But that dude needs to he needs to stop smoking pot just right fucking now.
He needs to stop smoking pot when he's writing and coming up with ideas and letting. And just letting people fucking, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for, where you're letting someone do this when they really shouldn't.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start with this goddamn fucking movie. I barely knew where to start when we reviewed the goddamn thing. Look, I love Kevin Smith. This has nothing to do with any kind of dislike for Kevin Smith at all. This is the only movie that he's done. I've seen all of his movies. This is the first one that's made a worse list of mine. There have been a few that I haven't liked, but they never made any kind of worse list. And of the ones I didn't like, I can certainly think of things that I did admire about them. Even Tusk. It started out fine. And it at least looked like a movie. He needs to really just, I don't know, look, we grew up, our teen years we spent getting excited when Kevin Smith would come out with the new movie. I can still rewatch the movies of his that I love. The ones I love still hold up to this day.
Yeah. No, and I'll say, because this is on my list too. So,
Oh, you saw it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Kevin Smith's last two movies, to me, are such a disappointment. Because I know you had problems with it. But it was obvious that his normal thing wasn't working anymore. Because, fuck, he's not 22 fucking years old anymore.
No, sure.
He's growing up. He's not going to have those same experiences to draw off of. So we're not going to get fucking Chasing Amy again. We're just fucking not.
Those movies are way more adult than something like this. Like, if you want, like, look, I've made this. This is me growing up. What, Yoga Hosers is the opposite of that.
But yeah, you can't expect him to have that same kind of voice anymore. But I thought after Red State, where it was like, oh, dude's just making movies now. Mm-hmm. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Like, I was excited after that because I want to see where he'd go with that. And then it's like, fuck it, I'm high.
Right, and so here's like Walrus Human Centipede, and here's Yoga Hosers about the two most annoying characters you'll see in a movie this year.
Oh, they were fucking insufferable.
Who are fucking... It's sort of like if, like, if someone on the Disney Channel decided to make their own version of Beavis and Butthead and failed miserably because they didn't get Beavis and Butthead. That's what this fucking movie is, and they're fighting bratwurst Nazis with some of the worst special effects you'll ever see. The movie was never funny, and I'm not buying into this excuse that, like, look, I just decided to make a movie for teen girls. That doesn't give you a pass to make it bad.
No, and there wasn't a movie for teen girls. It was a movie about teen girls. And that's the other problem I have with Kevin Smith lately, too. And I know he's been doing it for years, where he puts in his friends in fucking movies and shit. But at least back in the day, his friends were, okay, Clerks. He had to use his friends.
Yeah.
He had to, because that was available to him. But after Mallrats and Chasing Amy, his friends started becoming actors.
Yeah.
Like, so he was having real actors. And then he writes a movie where the two main characters are his daughter and her best friend.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, kudos to those two girls. But they're not fucking actors.
No, and at least Brian O'Halloran and Jeff Anderson in Clerks, yeah, you can tell that this is an amateur production. Yeah. You can tell that but they rise above that in their likability.
Yeah.
They rise above that in their dialogue, their likability. They're good at that. And
Jeff Anderson is in everything he's been in since. Has been he's a great supporting actor.
No, he is. I think he's very underrated.
The two Kevin Smith movies that I will fucking defend, even though a lot of people don't like him, are because of they hit some of the right notes. Zack and Miri Make a Porno.
I really like that movie.
Which, yes, it's not that Kevin Smith voice, and he was definitely trying to make a movie that would have been popular, and it didn't work for him, but I like that movie.
No, I did too.
And this one doesn't have Jeff Anderson in it, but I really fucking like Jersey Girl.
I did too. Yeah. No, I totally like that movie. The movie had... Yeah, it worked with a lot of cliches, but you know what? It did it well.
Yeah.
It was still likable. It was still sweet. The romance with Affleck and Liv Tyler was... You were rooting for these characters. Yeah. It had a great supporting cast. George Carlin was great. The chemistry with he and Affleck was fantastic. Yeah. It's not my favorite Kevin Smith movie, but it's not a bad movie at all. Not at all. And Yoga Hosers was just... It was just one of those movies that was made out of, wouldn't it be funny if we made something like this? And no, it really wasn't. It was actually pretty fucking punishing to sit through.
Yeah, no, at least Tusk, it was we have a stupid idea, let's make a movie of it. Which, fine.
And Tusk was a better made movie than this. And the acting was better too. Was that your number? Cause that was number.
That was your.
That was my number 8. So was that your number 7?
No, that was your number 7.
Or no, that was my number 7. So number 6 for you.
Number 6, Independence Day Resurgence.
That movie sucked. It's not on mine,
but no, it just sucked. Mm-hmm. It was an unnecessary sequel to a movie from 20 fucking years ago.
Yeah.
And it was just so not a good sequel. Like, just trying to cram all these characters back in that if they had made the sequel 2 years after, they wouldn't have found that fucking necessary. Mm-hmm. Like, because now it's cutesy. Yeah. Now it's like, well, let's get Judd Hirsch back. Uh-huh. And it's like, why? Uh-huh. Why? What? Can't we assume he's dead?
Yeah.
Like, and I like Judd fucking Hirsch.
Yeah.
But he wasn't necessary to the plot of that movie in any way.
No, he wasn't.
And he wasn't good comic relief.
From what I remember, no.
Yeah. Just him in a bus with some kids.
That's right. Yeah, the bus and the kids. Yeah. Man, that's a hard movie to remember, you know?
Well, and that's kind of the problem.
Yeah.
Like, it's a sequel to a movie that I can remember almost every scene of.
Yeah, dude!
And I haven't seen in 10 fucking years.
Same here, right? And I can remember it like it was yesterday. I barely remember shit about Independence Day
And we just saw that a few months ago.
There was dude, I'm not even kidding. I was at the board game store at the mall, which also has a calendar section. There's an Independence Day Resurgence 2017 calendar, just so you get reminded every day that we let this shit happen.
It was just... The best part of that movie was that Goldblum was in it.
That was the best part of the movie. I mean, he was still good. Jeff Goldblum was still good, but...
But you can even tell he didn't give a shit, though.
Yeah, he's one of those actors that can kind of still get by with not giving a shit. You know, some actors can't, some can. Goldblum kind of can.
Yeah.
And you don't have Will Smith in this movie, and who was one of the highlights of the first one. It's one of the reasons
Smith's big breakout movie, you know?
It's one of the reasons the first one works as well as it does as a fun popcorn movie. And the first one's highly enjoyable. This one, you take away Will Smith and you replace him with not only nothing, but nothing that brings the movie down.
Yeah.
Whether it was Liam Hemsworth or the kid who was playing his son.
Yeah. And I've got nothing against Liam Hemsworth. Honestly, don't. Like, he's been in a bunch of stuff I haven't liked, but he's one of those guys that it's like, fuck, man, pick movies like your brother picks movies and you might be okay.
It's possible.
You know? You might be okay.
He can still be the worst part of movies that are actually good, though.
No, yeah. But I think he's relying too much on being pretty, where his brother can actually fucking act.
Oh, yeah. His brother's, fucking got charm to spare.
Yeah.
And
but, yeah.
All you're left with in Independence Day Resurgence are special effects that aren't as good as the ones from 20 years ago.
No.
And are not unlike 20 different movies we see this year.
Well, and that's... And maybe that's the problem with being a sequel to... Independence Day was, you know, box office-wise, that was a pretty influential movie.
No, it was.
It really was.
Mm-hmm.
And then to make a sequel... I think the biggest problem with that movie is that it was 20 years too fucking late. I mean, there was a lot of other problems with it. Mm-hmm. But it was 20 years too fucking late.
It was 20 years too fucking late, but also, if this same exact movie, done this same exact way, was done 2 or 3 years after the first one, it would still be bad.
Oh, it'd still be bad. But also this year, with, like, The Blair Witch, we had a sequel that was 20 years after the fact as well. But really fucking good!
I enjoyed Blair Witch.
Yeah.
Brian and I, the movie got pretty trashed when it came out. Brian and I enjoyed it.
Everything I've read about it has been pretty glowing, actually.
It was one of those movies where early reviews were really good, and then when it did come out, it went into... It started getting some pretty bad reviews, but...
Basically, that was the people that actually like that genre of movies.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. You know what? It's like the first one, where it's got people who love it and people who hate it. The first one, as influential as it is and as popular as it is, it's a polarizing movie. And the same can honestly probably be said about this one too, about Blair Witch. But you know what? I still found it effective. Yeah. I did enjoy Blair Witch. A better movie than... Completely off topic. It happens in these, you know? Okay, so number 6 on mine is, was Sarah's number 1. Number 6 on mine is 50 Shades of Black. Do I need to say anything else about this fucking movie, man? No. Like, when the movie you're parodying is funnier than the shit that you got, like, look, this should be fucking easy, man. Like, 50 Shades of Grey is ripe for parody. And if you fail at that, which this movie did, by just putting in a bunch of shit and fart jokes that wouldn't have been funny 30 years ago, if you put that in this fucking movie, then... people are going to look at this and just say 50 Shades of Grey is a funnier movie than this. 50 Shades of Grey can be kind of unintentionally funny, sort of. That instantly makes it funnier than this. And it should be easy to make a parody of this, but this movie, like, look, this was just Marlon Wayans doing his thing where out of nowhere someone might get slapped across the face, or they get their head stuck in an elevator, or...
Who would have known that he'd been better off working with his brother?
Right? Look, I mean, Keenan Ivory Wayans made some pretty bad movies too. They were better than fucking... They were better than 50 Shades of Black.
Marlon Wayans was better off working with Shawn Wayans, for fuck's sake.
Marlon Wayans should have just stuck to working with Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah, and that's the other disappointing thing. It's like, that's a dude that you know, with the right director and the right script and the right role...
He's talented.
...can actually do something good.
Yeah.
And it's just like, is this because he makes money? Is it because it's easy?
They're cheap.
Like,
this movie had a $5 million budget. It didn't even stick around that long, but it made its budget back because it only cost $5 million to make.
Yeah.
And it was frustrating. It's the most mad I've ever seen Sarah at one of these movies. She was just kicking the seat in front of her because the movie, it makes it harder to sit through when you've seen 50 Shades of Grey, because you know all the steps that it's taking. You know where 50 Shades of Grey ends. So you know where this spoof movie is going and where this spoof movie's going to end. But once it reaches that point where 50 Shades of Grey ends, which honestly, even that didn't have much of an ending, this movie keeps going for like another 15, 20 minutes, and it just gets fucking infuriating after a while. That's my number 6.
Alright, well, my number 5 was Yoga Hosers.
Should we, was there anything we left out about Yoga
No.
Hosers?
What else can you say? They're bratwurst Nazis, and for some reason they're blue.
And for some reason they were filled with... Well, they were supposed to be filled with, like, sauerkraut or something, but the special effect was so bad that it looked like fucking, like, macaroni and cheese.
Yeah, no, it's...
I don't know.
The man can do better.
You know what his next movie is, right?
No.
It's still in that fucking universe. And it's called, you know what, this one might be... I mean, look, it'll be more enjoyable than Yoga Hosers, probably. It's called Moose Jaws. It's Jaws with a moose.
You know what? I'm down with that.
You know, alright, I can, depending on who you fucking cast, because if it stars the fucking Colleens again, then fuck that bullshit. I know they're supposed to be in it again, I think, but if it's just one scene, fine. If the whole fucking movie is them and a moose, oh, fuck you. Should we continue more about Yoga Hosers, or do you want to take a break?
Let's take a break.
Let's take a break. Fuck Yoga Hosers. We're gonna take a break. And we're back.
Yes.
Okay, so it's my number 5 now, right?
Yes.
This is honestly probably the most well-made movie that's on this list. It's even more, by how it looks and how it's directed, it's even more well-made than the movies that were in my honorable mentions. But fuck me if this movie wasn't just mean and offensive. Collateral Beauty. One of the most fucking soulless things I've seen since, like, fucking Wired. Like, I sat there like, you know what, there are movies that we see that are bad. Like Yoga Hosers. Like, it's a bad movie.
Yeah.
But Kevin Smith is a likable dude. Like, he's a fun guy to listen to. It's great seeing him talk about movies. He's just a likable guy. And Collateral Beauty was a film where it's like, I don't know this for a fact, but it seems like the kind of movie that someone would write if they're a complete sociopath. And I feel that way about Wired. And it was weird watching this, because the movie is about... Okay, take away the fact that the movie was really misadvertised. Take that out of it, because you could have something that's advertised the wrong way and it could still turn out to be good. This isn't that. Here's a movie about a guy that's going through grief because he lost his daughter a couple of years ago, and so he's just been in this state of depression for about 2 years. So his 3 friends conspire to make him look crazy so that he'll sell off his company, and they hire these actors to play love, death, and time, to go up to him and pretend to be those things so that they can film him talking to them and blowing up at them so that they can record it and digitally take out Love, Death, and Time to make it look like he's crazy so that they can buy his company from him. The thing is, these are supposed to be our heroes.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work right there. That really doesn't fucking work. And then with these twists that happen later are things that would only happen in the mind of a crazy person. One of the twists suggests that these three fantastical concepts have all come together to help out the worst people in New York City. Nothing about this movie worked. It has great actors in it, but it's the kind of movie that they're not good. It's sort of like when you take a great actor and you're kind of filming their first line reading of these characters. Like, okay, Helen Mirren's really good in the film, but
Helen Mirren.
Yeah. Edward Norton and Kate Winslet, both great actors. The performances that they're giving here look like it's the first time they're reading the material, and there's something off about it and weird. If you want to see more of what we think about this, because Sarah and I passionately hated this film. I can't even recommend this as a curiosity factor. It's a movie it's hateful, it's cynical, it just is about some of the worst in humanity. I want to save that kind of adjectives for what we have later in this review, but goddamn, if Collateral Beauty didn't also bring that out in me when I was watching this goddamn thing. That's one you didn't watch.
Nope. All right. 4, Incarnate.
Incarnate sucked.
Incarnate sucked so bad. Incarnate was like, hey, let's make a movie based off a graphic novel that's not done yet.
Oh, right. Yeah, I forgot about that. That was a movie that normally that would have been a me and Brian movie, but I think Brian was like sick that weekend or something. Hey, Dave, you want to go see Incarnate?
What? Okay.
Sure. The fuck is that? I don't know. It's some horror thing with Aaron Eckhart.
It's just, what a fucking hot mess of a movie. Like, so many contradictions and weird fucking tangents it goes on, and none of it makes sense.
No. And it's a movie that, you know what? That could have been a fun B movie.
It could have been, but it's just kind of like, there was no attention to detail at all in any of it. It's like, okay, this thing travels through touch. Let's all just sit in the room with it in an open door. Let's not chain it down or anything. Oh, by the way, it can move. It just chooses not to. Oh, and our hero's in a wheelchair, tied up to a bunch of cords.
Yeah.
Let's just put him in the room in there, and we'll just stand there and watch what happens.
What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. Oh, well, let's put him in a dream trance.
I sat there most of the time like, you know what, you're right, movie. I should be watching The Cell. It's a way better movie than this. Or like Dreamscape or something like that.
Let's combine Cell with a little bit of... Yeah, what a clusterfuck shit movie.
This could have been... If this movie was made in like 96 and starred Christopher Lambert, it might have had something, you know?
And I think maybe that's one of the reasons it's on my list too, is like, I really don't want Aaron Eckhart to be Christopher Lambert. Aaron Eckhart's a better fucking actor than that.
He is. And Christopher Lambert was in one of the more entertaining movies of 2016. He's in Hail Caesar.
Oh, yeah.
Briefly. Really briefly. That movie was fun.
Well, it's just like, for me now, it's fun when Christopher Lambert shows up and shit. It's like watching Southland Tales. Is that the Highlander? Like in a movie full of like, what the fuck is happening? Wait, Christopher Lambert?
He pops up in some random stuff nowadays. And Southland Tales aside, that movie was a hot fucking mess. Some of the stuff he pops up in anymore, like he's always been entertaining, but like he's actually been given some like really solid performances that I've seen here within the past some years.
Well, is it like, it's like Jean-Claude Van Damme. It's like, fuck Jean-Claude Van Damme. Like, why do you do this? And then I can find JCVD and watch that and go, God damn it, Jean-Claude Van Damme! Like, just be an actor!
He's great in that fucking movie.
He's amazing in that movie.
He did a movie called Wake of Death that's one of his best fucking movies, and he's great in it. And all these movies are like so much more fun and entertaining than Incarnate. Like,
anything's more fun and entertaining than Incarnate. Incarnate was awful.
Yeah, I sat there most of the time just in just sheer disappointment about how much that movie wasn't working. And I love me some like B stuff like that, but that movie, nothing about that was clicking for me.
Well, it was just like that opening scene too. It was another movie where the opening scene was like, that was an awesome opening scene.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
what happened?
Yeah, it was like, oh, I see what we're doing here. We're going back to like the Replacement Killers and like the opening of Blade, and it does nothing after that. Yeah. Okay, so number 4 on mine. You missed this one. Normally this is one that you and I would have been at, but no, this was Brian's number 1. Voiceless, the anti-abortion movie. This was another one where it was not long after Sophie was born, and I didn't even ask you about this one, because I was like, look, I haven't seen this movie. Like, I don't know how graphic this film is gonna get. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna ask Brian. So Brian and I went to go see this. Brian knowing nothing about this shit until he walked in. Actually, I didn't know this movie existed until it came to Springfield. Like, fucking I'm Not Ashamed didn't come here, and some of the shit that we got trailers for in front of the Pure Flix movies. This shit pops up. Okay, this movie, here's how I can describe this movie best, honestly. Like, if you were to tell me that this movie, and I think Brian made the same point too, and I'm pretty sure we said this in our review. If you had told me that this was like, secretly like, a pro-choice movie, or something like that, I would believe you, because its main character is like the kind of character you would see in like something that's trying to be like Taxi Driver, or like Maniac, or Don't Go in the House, or something like that. I love all of those movies because those movies they know how fucked up their main character is. This movie's not like that. This movie is like if like fucking Frank Zito from Maniac was our moral hero. And the movie it's not shot like stuff like God's Not Dead or War Room or anything like that. This movie is shot like The Wire. And the movie is psychotic. It's about this guy who becomes obsessed with the fact that there's a Planned Parenthood across from his church. And he's always spying on it and watching it. And looking at the movie, it's like, is this going to end in like a fucking shooting or something? And it does. But not in the way that you would expect. So, it's a movie that is about women's health that's starring, written by, and directed by men. And me and Brian are like, oh, and by the way, the irony's not lost either, that it's also 2 men reviewing it. That would have been so great if that was one of those reviews where Letty was just hanging out in the backseat.
Oh, man. It's probably a really good thing Sarah didn't go to that movie.
Oh, you need to see the video where Brian is describing it to her in their worst list. Because she just looks fucking nauseous. Like, this is a movie where there are, it's the main character, and it's a dude, like, trying to plan out, like, a woman's pregnancy while she's standing there and saying nothing, and has, like, no dialogue. It's it borders on self-parody. It really, really does. Oh. And then at the end, this is the last thing I'll say about this. At the end, there is a shooting that goes on there because there's an abusive husband is dragging his battered wife there by her hair and at gunpoint to force her to get an abortion, which, yeah, okay, they would totally accept her in there and do that.
The cops would be called immediately.
Right. So
they would lock her in a secure room. It's Planned Parenthood. They give a fuck about women.
I love the fact that, ironically, this movie's villain is a character who's trying to take a woman's choice away. I think that was kind of lost on the filmmakers of this movie. So this guy is shot by the cops, and then there's a pool of blood on the ground, and in the symbolic shot, you can see the reflection of the women's health sign in the pool of blood, as if it's their fault. Man, this movie was bullshit, man. It basically is like, you could tell me that this was in the same universe as Old Fashioned, and I'd believe you. Oh. This movie has better acting than Old Fashioned, I'll say that. It's better made. Yeah, not good.
Wow.
You missed out on that one, dude.
I apparently, yeah. That sounds entertaining as shit.
It kind of was. Me and Brian sitting there. There was a fucking family behind us with little kids. I'm like, are you fucking shitting me? Alright, so what do you got as number 3?
The Choice.
That was one I forgot about.
Same here.
And I didn't see it, but when I saw it on the list that I sent to you, the movies you saw, I was like, what the fuck is The Choice?
No, you sent me that list and I was like, what was that? And then I looked it up and read the description and went, what was that? Mm-hmm. And then I watched the trailer and was like, did I see this? Mm-hmm. And then I had to think about it for a while and went, oh yeah! Mm-hmm. That movie was fucking awful.
It was about like, it's like Nick Sparks, right? It has something to do with dogs.
It was a Nicholas Sparks movie, yeah, and the guy in it is like a veterinarian. And falls in love with his neighbor, and she's like engaged or dating Tom Welling, who's a doctor.
Oh, okay.
So she has to make a choice
about
the handsome neighbor or her handsome boyfriend. And it's just like, oh, fuck you. Fuck you, Nicholas Sparks. Fuck you writing the same book over and over and over again.
That would be some ripe material for like a season of Fuller House.
Yeah. No, and it's just shit. It's one of those movies that is like the Nicholas Sparks movies. Of the Nicholas Sparks movies, I'm not even going to say it's the worst, but it is by far the most forgettable.
More so than Best of Me and...
Yes.
Did you see any other ones besides that? There was Best of Me. I think Brian might have seen...
I've seen a bunch of them with Brian. Because Best of Me was that the one with the fucking horses?
Best of Me was the one where it was like, I think Alan Alda was in that.
Yeah, that's the one with the fucking guy who's like a...
Is that Scott Eastwood?
Yeah,
okay.
He's like a Bronco rider. And then there was the one we saw with James Marsden.
Yes, that's the one I'm forgetting.
Yeah.
Wait, was that Best of Me? The one with James Marsden and Luke Bracey? Was that the one that also... Man, these movies blend together!
That's kind of the thing. Let's Google Nicholas Sparks movies.
Fuck!
No, because I think Brian and I have seen...
You guys saw the Luke Bracey one, and...
okay, so...
They have the same poster, too.
Nicholas Sparks movies. Alright, so...
There's The Choice. There's Best... Okay, Best of Me was the James Marsden one.
Best of Me. The Choice. Walk to Remember.
Longest Ride.
Longest
Ride was the Scott Eastwood one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's really confusing. Holy shit.
Yeah, no, there's so... Did we see Safe Haven?
No, that was out before we started doing it. I think that was out before midnight screenings were year-round.
That was 2013, so...
Oh, okay, so we just didn't go to that.
Maybe no...
2013 was when we started doing this year-round.
But they're all the same fucking movie. No, I don't think we...
same poster.
I don't think we saw Safe Haven.
No, we didn't.
That's the one with Josh Duhamel. I remember seeing the trailer for that like 82 fucking times.
Yeah. Alright, so... Do you have anything else about The Choice?
Just the reason it's so high on my list because it was the only movie that I just completely forgot about. and quite frankly, like, there are bad movies that I'll remember for the rest of my life. But quite frankly, if something is so forgettable that I forgot in the past year, especially in a year where I didn't see that many movies, I forgot I saw a movie, read the plot of the movie, couldn't remember seeing the movie. watched the trailer of the movie, couldn't remember seeing the movie, and then had to sit and think about it for a while. That's a bad fucking movie.
Yeah.
Like, because if it sticks in your memory, at least it sticks in your memory.
Mm-hmm. No, that's very true.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it seems like there's one of these every year.
Every year,
there might be one this year too. If there is, I don't know what the fuck it's gonna be. I haven't seen any trailers for it. My number 3. Okay, this went back and forth on Voiceless as to which one I thought was worse. And what I kind of came down to was like, okay, well, Voiceless only hates women. This one hates everybody, women and everybody else. And also it's much poor. The acting's worse and it's more poorly made too. Number 3 is God's Not Dead too.
Well, let's just combine it because it's my number 2.
Okay. Yeah, let's combine it. God's Not Dead 2. Look, man, it's bad for the same reasons that the first one was bad. It's a persecution complex movie. It's largely bullshit. The acting's terrible. The arguments you could fucking punch a hole in.
You don't even have to punch.
Yeah, you can walk through them.
No. All you have to do is blow on them a little bit. like a birthday candle.
Yeah. This movie didn't even make me mad, honestly. I think it might have made you a little more mad than me. On my end, it was more like just kind of like, oh, aren't you cute? Oh, aren't you adorable? And that was it. Maybe I'm kind of numb to a lot of these now.
I'm getting there too, but quite frankly, of the Christian movies, and I know there are worse of the Christian, there's worse made movies and there's more offensive movies than the two God's Not Dead movies. But they are the fucking epitome of everything that's wrong with all of them.
Yeah.
Like, if you have to go, like, a Christian movie and give an example, you're going to say God's Not Dead or God's Not Dead 2.
Which is bad. Which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because it makes everybody else look... They're both the kinds of movies that make everybody else look like complete, seething psychopaths.
Yeah.
Just the most hateful individuals you can think of, unless you're a person of faith.
Yeah.
And by faith, in this case, I mean what they consider to be the right faith. If you are anything else, if you're a different religion, if you're an atheist, if you're whatever, that means that you are just fucking evil, you have contempt and hatred for everything else in the world, especially Christianity. And this is just a movie that people go to see their really disjointed beliefs confirmed for them on screen in a really negative and bad way. These movies are just negative. That's it.
And this one didn't even have Kevin Sorbo.
No, it didn't. It had Ray Weiss, and he was entertaining.
Yeah, and that whole subplot with the lawyers and the what was it? They were talking the IRS or something, or the FBI wanted transcripts.
Well, what that was in real life. Sometimes that has happened to make sure that they're not pushing forth a political agenda or a particular candidate, because then they would lose their tax status. This movie leaves out the explanation of that and just makes it say oh, well, they're trying to outlaw religion, so they want our transcripts.
No, they're making sure that you're not breaking the agreement you've made with the federal government.
Yeah.
It's fuck you, asshat.
Right. I can't wait for God's Not Dead 3. We did get a response from the PureFlix Twitter account. Someone linked us both on Twitter, and they said, because we made that joke that the third movie should be in space.
Yeah.
In space, no one can hear you pray or something like that. And then somebody, I think, maybe did a mock poster of that, and they added us into this, and also the PureFlix account, and PureFlix responded.
How did I miss this? I'm not on Twitter enough.
It was maybe not. You might have been out of town for a while, because I think it was not long after the movie came out, and Pureflix said something like, well, that would be interesting. I hope they do that now. I hope they decide to set it in space. I might legitimately like that movie.
No, you won't. And neither will I. But we'll go.
Oh, we'll be there. Regardless of... I think they are making a third one.
I say we gotta get like a bunch of people together and just try and con Pureflix into releasing Jesus Bro.
I think so. It's a PG-13. It has a good message, which would be the first Pureflix movie that has a good message.
Yeah, our message is basically don't be a dick.
That we say in this video where you're hating on a bunch of these movies, but they deserve it, god damn it.
They do deserve it.
Son of a bitch.
Fucking terrible. Alright, do your number 2.
My number 2 is Vaxxed. Because once you start making a movie that will legitimately fucking hurt people,
yeah.
like, you know what? That's gonna go really fucking high up on my list. There's nothing I can say about this other than, you know what? Vaccinate your kids. Come on, please, like, just vaccinate your children. And beyond the fact that I wholeheartedly disagree with a lot of what this movie stands for and what a lot of this movie's doing, this movie really does get into an area where it kind of starts saying, like, being autistic is a fate worse than death. Sort of like how, like...
But there's no...
Sort of like how Me Before You was kind of like that with disabled people.
Yeah.
Except this is like a documentary that people are really taking seriously. Like, aggressively so. Like, we got yelled at hardcore in this video. I have never been called so many 4-letter words by a group of housewives in my life. It was kind of amazing.
Well, and those fucking people, their kids are going to get fucking sick. Mm-hmm. And they're going to wonder why, and it's because they didn't vaccinate their fucking children. There is no proof at all that vaccinations cause autism in any way, shape, or form. When Sarah and I's kid, like, the first doctor's appointment, they're like, the doctor, I guess trying to be diplomatic, just kind of, so are you guys gonna vaccinate? Mm-hmm. Kind of like, with that look like, please say yes. Mm-hmm. Please say yes. I was like, yeah, how many needles you got? I'll hold her down.
Yeah.
Let's fucking do this.
To me, it's one of those arguments that's just one of those debates that we, in 2017, shouldn't be having. Like, whether or not the Earth is flat. Like...
We've been in space, motherfucker.
No, doctored photos, bro. Don't let those bastards... Don't let Arthur C. Clarke lie to you.
Jesus, people are just... I don't know what... It's all based in fucking fear. I just...
Well, we need to... segue into our number 1 movie.
Speaking of fear,
let's just get into it. You knew this was going to be number 1 on
Captain America: Civil War,
right? Fuck that shit. The Civil War has been over for years. Talk about an issue that shouldn't be in 2017.
Yeah, no, I mean, Iron Man wasn't even wearing gray.
I want there to be an actual, like, Civil War movie that comes out with a tagline that's something sort of like Civil War, where it would be a tagline that says, like, pick your side. Like, if that was the tagline for Free State of Jones, or Gettysburg, or Glory.
Well, here's the thing, like...
Okay. Oh, by the way, Captain America Civil War is not our number 1 choice.
No. I'm going to continue this tangent for a second, because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, you know, like... My dad was fascinated, still is fascinated with the Civil War. So I grew up, like, family vacations, going to battlefields and shit.
Yeah.
Watching a lot of Civil War movies. Now, I can remember seeing a lot of movies where, like, the main character was a former Confederate soldier and stuff like that. I remember a lot of Civil War movies. I can't, off the top of my head, think of one where the South is the hero. Can you?
Help us out with that. I'm sure there are.
There might be one or two.
Uh-huh.
But definitely not like Confederate soldiers being the hero, or like previous Confederate soldiers. Like I can think of a few.
I can think of one that looks at both sides in a very objective historical standpoint, like Gettysburg.
But not one where it's like, this is a straight up movie,
right?
And the Confederates are the fucking heroes, and the North are the villains, and it's one sided.
Yeah.
That's our next movie, right?
Sure.
Starring Irving.
Oh man. Okay, so Hillary's America. Have you seen the rest of it since?
No.
Because I have.
No, I won't give it my fucking time. Just say how bad this movie is.
That it's the first movie we walked out on.
First movie I've ever watched.
Same here.
33 years old.
Uh-huh.
Even before we started doing this shit,
yeah.
You and I have watched, I don't know how many movies. We've been going to movies since we were fucking kids.
Yeah.
There was a few years there in middle school and high school where we probably saw as many movies as we see now.
No, yeah, totally.
I've never walked out of a movie. No. I've seen some horrendous shit.
Mm-hmm.
This movie was... I found it insulting as a human being.
Yeah, it was... I'm not even going to say that it's bad because it's propaganda, because a movie can, by all accounts, be propaganda and be good.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it can. A movie can absolutely be a propaganda film.
And it can be propaganda that I don't agree with.
Yeah.
In any way, shape, or form. Like, and still be at least a good movie.
And still be well-made. And
this is going to sound horrible. Every Nazi propaganda movie.
There are Nazi propaganda films that are more well-made than this.
All of them! All of them!
The ones I've seen, certainly. But this movie, you shouldn't... To describe how bad this movie is, there are some things you would describe for this that you shouldn't use when talking about a documentary. Like, the acting is bad. You know?
Yeah.
The acting is bad. The script is bad. The settings are bad. You shouldn't be saying that when you're talking about a documentary film.
Well, I have to say, it might be the first documentary, and admittedly, didn't finish the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But we sat through a chunk of it.
Mm-hmm.
First documentary I've ever seen where there wasn't a single bit of documentary footage.
No, not really. It was mostly just reenactments. It was mostly a lot of staged sequences.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that was staged. It's hard for me to think of a moment that was really, honestly, truly genuine. And I know that, like, he's put out stuff where he's like, this shows that everything that I'm talking about actually happened. Look, in any review for this movie, no one is going to sit there and say, what? That's not true. The Democrats didn't support slavery back then. That's not the point. That isn't the point. And also, dude, look, you can point to me whatever evidence you want. I don't think that a Klansman jumped out of a movie screen and leaped across the table in the White House and in its ghostly form went out into the White House lawn while Woodrow Wilson was standing on like he was George Reeves in the opening credits of Superman. I don't think that actually happened. You could point me to some evidence if you want. I'm kind of skeptical about that. But you can make a documentary film about what the party system used to be like.
And how the parties have changed drastically.
Yeah.
But you know what? If you're going to do that as a documentary, talk about how the Republican Party has changed drastically as well.
Well, yeah, but certainly. Yeah. But that's...
And that could be a fascinating documentary.
No, it could. It could absolutely be a fascinating documentary, really no matter what side you're looking at. But that's not what this movie's interested in. This movie's not interested in being just a straightforward historical film. This is a movie that's made to prey on the absolute worst in people. It's a movie that's made to keep hatred alive, to make people hate another side, to say, I hate that group,
yeah.
I hate that person. And what made me really decide to get up and not want to finish this was I didn't want to be part of something that would make people hurt other people, physically hurt other people, because this movie contains a lot of the same altered footage that was instrumental in getting like a Planned Parenthood shot up.
Oh, yeah.
And the people who made this movie, Dinesh D'Souza, knows that this shit is bullshit, and he doesn't care. It doesn't matter to the people who released this movie and who made it. It doesn't matter to them that it just divides people more. It makes people hate each other more. And it's all about just keeping that kind of seething, violent, hostile anger alive. This is a movie that equates consensual sex with slave rape. It's a movie that if you were to go to, it would be like if somebody on the other side of the aisle made a movie that said all Republicans want to touch children because Dennis Hastert exists.
Yeah.
Or all Republicans want to take a gun and shoot up an abortion clinic. Or all Republicans want to just indoctrinate every single one of you with like religion or something like that. And you know what? If that movie was made, I would also hate that movie because that's not fucking true.
Yeah.
And so it has, but that movie didn't, to my knowledge, that movie didn't get made this year. This movie did. And it's just the worst kind, it's the worst kind of propaganda. It's the worst kind of just contempt for humanity that I've really seen in a movie.
I felt personally insulted watching the movie, but at the same time I was just like, this movie's just insulting to people.
No, it is.
In general, like, this is just insulting. Mm-hmm. And it's the people that, he was saying were the victims of the Democrats, too. It was fucking insulting to them.
The movie's insulting. The movie's really insulting to Republicans, too, because it's really... It's preying on ignorance and therefore calling its audience ignorant. Because this movie is showing, like, the other side of the aisle, the people you hate, support the Klan.
Yeah.
Like, that would be like if I made a movie that said, Republicans today support the Klan, or something like that. Or some
the Klan
extreme.
today supports Republicans.
But
but most Republicans don't support the fucking Klan.
Exactly.
Like, I am a fucking dyed-in-the-wool fucking Democrat. Like, I am a liberal motherfucker. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I fully understand and appreciate that most Republicans are fine people.
Yeah.
That honestly, deeply have those beliefs, but they're not intended to hurt people. It's just what they believe. And that's fine.
Uh-huh.
Like, I always encourage people to vote with their conscience and their belief system.
No, totally.
Even if it's a completely opposite mine. Mm-hmm. But when you're voting to fuck someone else over, like, or out of hate or out of fear, fuck you.
And this is a movie that really promotes that kind of fear. Really promotes that kind of hatred. And I just think more of the human race than that. Call me naive, but dear Lord, like, this movie treats its audience in a way that, like, it's insulting in the way that something like Saving Christmas is insulting towards Christians,
but more so.
More so because Saving Christmas isn't. It doesn't make me think anything violent is going to happen.
No,
or anything like that.
And Saving Christmas isn't like it's offensive. Yeah.
It is.
But at no point in the movie is like, if you don't believe what I believe, you're a monster.
And a movie like God's Not Dead does say, like, everyone else is kind of a monster, but it's not
promoting itself as a fucking documentary.
No, it's not. It's
like,
not.
when you try and attach that word to a movie, it insinuates truth.
No, this is a film that stages a scene in which he goes to the DNC and goes to the basement and finds slave shackles.
Yeah.
As if the other side is for slavery.
Yeah.
As if the other side is for slavery or for the Klan he's got that one part where it's showing slave rape, and he says, what's with Democrats taking advantage of women, equating an extramarital affair to slave rape. First of all, let's be totally honest and say that neither side has a monopoly on extramarital affairs. But dear God, am I not going to confuse out of wedlock sex with fucking slave rape, man?
No, it's...
And that was this movie that we saw, and that I didn't want to be a part. It was a hot button year anyway, and I really didn't want to be a part of something this awful.
No, and that's the thing. Like, and honestly, like if it weren't an election year and politics weren't already on my mind, maybe I could have sat through it. Maybe. And but that movie is just, even with everything that happened this year politically, which I am scared shitless of.
Sure.
I still have faith in our system and faith in the people of this country to a degree. Like, part of me is like, you're all fucking idiots right now. But that's going to change, and it's going to pass, and that's the beauty of our system. Like, I still have hope. But that movie just wanted to crush it out of everything.
And here's the thing. My hatred of this movie really has nothing to do with who I voted for, because Hillary Clinton is barely mentioned in this film.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, the way that this movie is structured, it's kind of structured in a way that the same movie could exist regardless of who was running on the Democratic side. Like, she's mentioned so little that you could kind of just swap her name out and put in
and it was probably made that way. You got to think at the time this movie was released and the amount of setup and acting and scene writing and shit that went into it. Like, this movie was probably made before she had... I mean, let's be honest, she always kind of had the nomination locked.
Sure.
But, like, it could... Yeah, if things had gone another way, they could have called it Bernie's America.
Yeah, I mean, they would have taken out the part that talks about, like...
O'Malley's America.
Well,
That's the movie I was.
Right. You would have to take out the part that shows like Bill Clinton's late night orgies that make him look like Emperor Tiberius, which I'm like, all right, come on, like let's stop with the whole one side has more extramarital affair. Come on, man, that's just politicians in general.
You want to play that game? Dennis Hastert diddled a little boy.
If you want to play that game, like, oh, this guy monkeyed around on his wife, like, all right, so did Trump. And and Newt Gingrich. And look, like, we can play that game till the end of the fucking day.
Yeah, no, it's... Like, the true story of that is, dudes kind of suck. They're scum.
Yeah. So, you knew that this was going to be our number one movie. I had people saying, like, maybe you should leave it off because that's predictable. It's number one. I'm like, so you want me to lie? No.
Yeah. Like, this isn't meant to be, like, full of surprises and twists. It's a roundup.
People knew the year that you guys saw Medea Christmas that would be number one. They kind of figured Die Hard 5 would be my number one the year that came out.
It's like, honestly, this should be kind of predictable.
Yeah, really, like, the unpredictable parts is sort of like the bottom 5, or like the 6 through like 10 is sort of what's kind of unpredictable.
Where does it fit?
Yeah, where
like how do I feel about it 7 months after the fact? Like, can I let it slide a little bit? You know?
Yeah. So that's my. I got really annoyed with like I remember one thing there was some really idiotic shit when we reviewed Hillary's America.
Oh.
Like, meaning, like, to the point to where, like, we kind of got yelled at for bringing up politics. Look, like, I would understand that if we were reviewing, like, okay, like, I don't know, Independence Day 2, or like fucking, I don't know, some big block, but whatever. Like, if we were reviewing Hot Tub Time Machine 2 or whatever, and we started talking about politics, then I would be like, yeah, okay, I understand you're watching this and you don't want politics to come up and shit like that. I get it. what do you think's gonna happen in a review for a movie like this? That's like if you were watching a review for God's Not Dead 2 and you got mad at us for bringing up religion.
Well, beyond that, like, the nature of what we do and how we do it. Mm-hmm. Because these midnight reviews and stuff, these aren't professional reviews. We're not.
Lord, no.
We're not sitting with a screener and writing deep thoughts about these movies.
No.
We get in the car and we just fucking ramble.
Yeah.
Like, the nature of this show, we're going to talk about a lot of shit. Like, sometimes it's going to be politics. It's going to be religion. It's going to be our personal lives.
Yeah.
It's going to be what we had for fucking lunch and how big a shit we took. Like, these
be,
things are going to
yeah.
come up. And it's kind of like along the lines of spoilers. Like, if you're watching these midnight reviews and you don't want that, then don't watch it.
Then you probably shouldn't be watching a 45-minute freeform vlog.
Yeah, or you know, the people that get on and, like, you know, all of us have, there's people that like all of us, there's people that dislike some of us that do these reviews with us. I know there's some people that just can't fucking stand me. Mm-hmm. And I'm fine with that. But you know what? Instead of getting in the comments and throwing a fucking bitch fit, if you see me in the picture, don't press play. Understand you're going to be annoyed, and skip it. Mm-hmm. It's that fucking easy.
Or just watch the first few minutes and get a taste of whether or not you liked the movie or not. Like, I understand if you want, like, a shorter review, a review that's, like, 3-4 minutes, like, but YouTube's a big place. There's a lot you can choose from there. You can watch Chris Stuckman, you can watch a bunch of other people. You know, that's a very short, compact. There's a lot of them that I watch that are short. There's some I watch that are short, like Chris Stuckman's, and there's longer reviews I watch too, like Double Toasted. Like, you can find whatever meets your taste.
But we've been doing this so long.
Yeah.
With, you know, and yes, every year there's a new person or someone leaves or something like that.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, like, it's the same group of people doing this, and we've been doing it for years.
Quite a while.
So if you don't know what to expect at this point,
then I can't help you.
that's your fault.
Uh-huh.
And that, I'm fine that some people don't like me. I think it's great that some people do like me. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing. It's just like, you call me names all you want. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons I don't read comments much anymore, because like, I get mad.
Oh.
I get mad. Sometimes I say some things. And it's, more specifically, it's comments about Sarah. Make me real mad.
You shouldn't have said that. That might be inviting to a certain extent.
No. You know, and it's comments like, Sarah's prettier. Like, I'd hit that. I'm just kind of like, if you could, you would, but you can't. Like, yeah. But it's when somebody says something real offensive.
No, I got you.
Like, you've had to delete some of my comments for it.
Oh, sure. I've had to delete. Oh, yeah. Like, everyone who runs a website, like, whether they delete a lot of comments or a few, everyone does it sometimes. There's some that I've had to. I don't, by and large. When something gets deleted, that means you've really fucked up.
Yeah.
On my, not you. Like, I mean, another comments.
But you know, it's like, well, if I delete this, I should delete Dave's response, or just let Dave to come out and murder someone for no reason.
Well, in that case, it gets deleted automatically, because you delete the top one, then the responses get deleted too.
But I've gotten to the point now that now all the videos are being hosted on YouTube. Like, if you want to know who's flagging your shit, it's me. I'll tell you right now. Like, if I'm scrolling through comments and I read hateful shit about any of us or any of the other commenters, if I see people calling each other, like, racial names or, like,
those get
insults based off your sexual orientation, I'm the first motherfucker that flags you. And if it's still there an hour later, I'll flag you.
Those typically get set to, like, spam anyway. Like, if someone calls someone the N-word, or they call them, you know, something really bigoted or some shit, that typically gets thrown into spam anyway.
But I do it, and you know what? Quite honestly, that's fun for me. I really like it. Like, keep trying. Like, I'll get real into it. I'll get your account deleted if I...
No, Dave, that was me! crap! Well, I guess we're retired now.
Yeah. Are you listening, Hadley?
I knew it. I fucking knew it. Any final thoughts about bad movies of 2016?
I feel like I dodged a few bullets this year.
You really did.
Yeah, like, it's really... I think this is the first year of me doing this on a regular basis where I saw more good movies than bad. I honestly feel that's the case this year.
I mean, I probably did too, just because I've seen everything that came out. But like,
I didn't.
Or yeah,
I mean, like, I honestly saw more because like last year when I was coming up with my list of like bad movies, I had a list of like 25, 30 fucking movies.
It's about what it was on my end, but I had a bunch of. I've seen a lot of great shit this year too. But you know what? I don't know if I have a final thought. Honestly, whatever it would be whatever I would say in any other year. There's shitty movies. There was, you know what? There were some particularly fucking offensive movies that came out this year, but.
There was also some incredible. Well, that's another video.
That's yeah. So, you know what? There'll be a lot of movies to choose from next year too. Some of which probably for a lot of the same reasons.
And a lot of them we'll probably see this month.
It is January.
It is January.
All right. See ya.